Sir, put the phone down and step back, now.
I'm not a threat. I'm recording because they're blocking my car.
They're saying you threatened them.
That's a lie, and it's all on video.
And you have the whole thing recorded?
From the first word.
The man at the center of this storm was named Marcus, a 38-year-old architect who had moved to the upscale suburban enclave just 8 months earlier. He drove a practical electric sedan and lived a quiet life, spending most of his time designing commercial spaces from his home office and occasionally hiking on weekends. Nothing about Marcus screamed confrontation or drama. He was the kind of neighbor who always kept his lawn immaculate and waved politely to everyone he passed. That Saturday, Marcus had one goal: grab some steaks and salad ingredients for a weekend barbecue. He had parked his car in a standard spot, perfectly centered between the lines, and headed into the store. The whole shopping trip took maybe 25 minutes. Normal, boring, forgettable. But when he walked back to his car, arms full of grocery bags, he noticed something aggressive about the parking situation. A massive lifted pickup truck had parked so close to his driver's side door that the side mirrors were almost touching. Standing next to the truck were two people, a man and a woman, both appearing to be in their early 50s. The man was heavy-set, wearing a camouflage baseball cap, and the woman had severe blonde hair and oversized designer sunglasses despite the overcast sky. Marcus tried to ignore them and began loading his groceries into the back seat from the passenger side to avoid squeezing between the vehicles. That's when the woman said something that made him freeze. She told him he looked like he was scouting houses in a neighborhood where he didn't belong. Marcus looked up, genuinely confused. He asked what she meant, though somewhere in his gut he already knew. The woman stepped closer, her voice getting louder, adopting a shrill, lecturing tone. She said this used to be a nice area, a safe area, before Atlanta elements started moving and claiming people like him were the reason property values were threatened. The man in the camo cap nodded along, arms crossed over his chest, physically blocking the small space Marcus would need to access his driver's door. Now here's where Marcus made a decision that would prove to be brilliant. Instead of engaging, instead of arguing or raising his voice, he calmly pulled out his phone and started recording. He held it up clearly at chest level, ensuring the frame captured both of their faces. The moment that red recording indicator appeared, the dynamic shifted violently. The woman's voice got even louder, theatrical, and aggressive. She started screaming that he was threatening them with a weapon by holding up his phone. The man in the camo cap stepped forward, invading Marcus's personal space, stabbing a finger toward the lens. He demanded Marcus stop recording and get back to where you came from, immediately. Even though Marcus's car registered to his home 3 streets away was right there. Marcus kept his voice calm, steady, and almost monotone. He explained he was simply trying to enter his own vehicle and would appreciate it if they moved so he could leave. Simple, reasonable, clear. That's when things escalated dramatically. The woman suddenly pulled out her own phone and dialed 911. Within seconds, she was performing for emergency services, and what she said next would become the focal point of the entire legal case. She reported that an aggressive black male was holding her and her husband hostage in the parking lot, that he was threatening physical violence, and that she feared for her life. She described Marcus, who was wearing a polo shirt and khakis, as looking like a thug who had approached them out of nowhere. Every single word was a fabrication, and every single word was being captured on Marcus's camera in high definition. The man in the camo cap seemed emboldened by her performance. He moved even closer, his face now just inches from Marcus's phone. He spat out words that cannot be fully repeated here. Racial slurs were mixed with promises that the boys in blue were on their way to take care of him. The woman joined in, creating a stereo effect of hateful rhetoric that echoed across the asphalt. Other shoppers began to notice. A few stopped to watch from a safe distance, phones tentatively raised. A middle-aged woman started walking over, asking if everyone was all right, but the couple turned their venom toward her too, screaming at her to mind her own business. Marcus remained remarkably composed, almost statue-like. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't baited. He simply kept the camera steady and waited. He knew the objective truth was being saved to his cloud storage, and he knew that in about 5 to 10 minutes, Cobb County police officers would arrive and see the situation for themselves. Quick question for you watching. Have you ever had to record an interaction just to feel safe? Type yes in the comments if you have. When the police cruiser pulled into the parking lot with lights flashing, the couple's demeanor changed instantly. The woman rushed toward the officers, practically hyperventilating as she pointed a shaking finger at Marcus. She painted herself as the terrified victim, claiming she and her husband were just loading their truck when this man attacked them verbally and started filming them to intimidate them. The responding officer, Officer Davis, listened patiently, his face neutral. Then he walked over to Marcus, who was still standing by his passenger door phone in hand. Davis asked what happened, and Marcus explained calmly. He mentioned he had the entire interaction on video, starting from the moment the verbal harassment began. Officer Davis asked if he could review the footage. Marcus unlocked his phone and played it from the start. The officer watched in silence, his jaw slightly tightening as the minutes ticked by. He watched the woman make demonstrably false statements on her recorded emergency call. He heard the distinct racial slurs used by the husband. He saw the man physically blocking Marcus's access to his own vehicle. When the video ended, Officer Davis asked Marcus to airdrop him a copy immediately. Then Davis walked back to the couple. What happened next surprised everyone watching from the sidewalk. The officer told them both that based on the incontrovertible video evidence, they were being detained for filing a false police report. The woman's face went chalk white. The man in the camo cap started blustering, raising his voice again, demanding to speak to Davis's sergeant. A second unit had arrived by this point, with Officer Reed stepping out. Between the two officers, they managed to keep the situation under control, but the couple did not go quietly. The woman started sobbing hysterically, saying this was all a horrible misunderstanding, that she really did feel threatened by his presence. The man accused Marcus of baiting them, of setting them up. But cameras don't lie, especially not ones that run continuously without cuts. Here's where the story takes a crucial turn. One of the bystanders, who had been watching a college student loading her trunk nearby, came forward and told Officer Reed that she had also recorded the back half of the incident on her phone. She had started filming when she heard the man yelling slurs, capturing the interaction from a completely different angle that showed Marcus's passive stance. Her video corroborated everything Marcus had shown. The couple, whose names were revealed later as Barry and Patricia, were placed in handcuffs. Barry continued yelling, attracting even more attention from shoppers exiting the grocery store. Patricia had gone silent, her expensive sunglasses sliding down her nose as she wept. They were put into separate police vehicles and taken to the county jail for processing. Marcus was asked if he wanted to press additional charges beyond the state's charges for the false report. The officers explained that what he experienced qualified as criminal trespass harassment and potentially a hate crime enhancement, depending on how the district attorney's office viewed the slurs. Marcus didn't hesitate. He said yes to all of it. Before leaving the parking lot, Marcus made a decision that would amplify this story beyond anything he initially imagined. He uploaded the raw, unedited video to his social media accounts. He didn't add dramatic music or inflammatory commentary. He simply posted the footage with a caption explaining the date, location, and a brief summary of the encounter, expressing his exhaustion with existing while black in suburbia. The video went live at around 4:30 in the afternoon. By 8:00 p.m., it had been viewed over 2 million times on Twitter alone. By midnight, it was the #1 trending topic nationally. By Sunday morning, national news producers were sliding into Marcus's DMs requesting interviews. Legal experts were dissecting the footage on cable news, and Barry and Patricia's names and faces were plastered across every corner of the internet. The internet did what the internet does best. It investigated with ruthless efficiency. Within hours, people discovered that Barry owned a mid-sized landscaping company that serviced many commercial properties in the metro area. Patricia worked as a senior dental hygienist at a prominent local practice. Both had public Facebook profiles filled with shared memes and comments that revealed a long-standing pattern of prejudice, suddenly making their parking lot behavior seem less like a one-off bad day and more like a glimpse into their genuine worldviews. Barry's business page on Google and Yelp was flooded with thousands of one-star reviews. People called his office line over the weekend, filling the voicemail box with expressions of disgust. His business email server crashed from the volume of hate mail. By Monday morning, 4 major commercial clients had publicly announced they were terminating their landscaping contracts with his firm effective immediately. Patricia's dental practice received similar treatment. The managing dentist, a man who feared for his practice's reputation, released a statement on that Sunday evening. It announced that Patricia had been terminated for conduct unbecoming of their professional standards. But the legal consequences were just beginning. On Monday morning, the Cobb County District Attorney's Office reviewed the case file. They watched the videos, read the police reports, and interviewed both responding officers. By Monday afternoon, formal charges were filed. Barry and Patricia each faced felony charges of filing a false police report alongside misdemeanor charges of harassment and disorderly conduct. Crucially, the DA added a state hate crime enhancement which in Georgia could significantly increase sentencing severity. The hate crime enhancement was the leverage point. It transformed what might have been a slap on the wrist into a life-altering legal battle. If convicted on all counts, Barry and Patricia were facing potential prison time, massive fines, and permanent felony records. Their lawyer, a pricey private attorney they hired after posting bail, tried to do damage control in the press. He released a statement claiming his clients had simply misinterpreted the situational dynamics due to recent neighborhood security concerns, that it was a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by social media, and that they deeply regretted any perceived offense. The statement landed terribly. Social media tore it apart within minutes. How do you misinterpret your own decision to scream racial slurs? How do you accidentally tell 911 lies about being attacked? Do you think their apology was genuine or just tactical damage control? Let me know what you think in the comments. The court proceedings dragged on for several months. Barry and Patricia initially pleaded not guilty, apparently hoping the fervor would die down or their lawyer could find a technicality. Their attorney attempted various strategies, including a motion to suppress the video evidence, claiming Marcus had provoked them into a reaction for internet clout. That argument failed miserably in front of the judge. The video clearly showed Marcus was reactive, not proactive. As the trial date approached, reality set in. The prosecution offered a plea deal. If Barry and Patricia pleaded guilty to the harassment and false report charges, the state would drop the hate crime enhancement. They would face substantial probation, significant community service heavy fines, and mandatory anger management and racial sensitivity counseling, but likely avoid immediate jail time for a first offense. It was the best offer they were going to get. Barry wanted to reject it, convinced a local jury might sympathize with him. Patricia, terrified of a public trial where the video would be played on a loop, wanted to take the deal. Their lawyer reportedly spent hours convincing Barry that a trial was financial and legal suicide. The evidence was ironclad. Finally, reluctantly, they agreed. On a Tuesday morning in late autumn, 9 months after the parking lot incident, Barry and Patricia stood before a superior court judge and pleaded guilty. The judge accepted the pleas but made it clear during sentencing that she was disgusted by their actions. She stated for the record that weaponizing the police against a fellow citizen based on race was a profound violation of public trust. Barry was sentenced to 3 years of intensive probation, 400 hours of community service, a fine of $7,500, and mandatory participation in a rigorous bias education program. Patricia received a similar sentence with slightly fewer community service hours. Additionally, both were ordered to have zero contact with Marcus for a period of 10 years. The judge also ordered an unusual condition as part of their community service. They had to speak to civic groups about the dangers and legal consequences of filing false police reports. But the legal consequences were only part of their punishment. The social and economic consequences proved to be devastating. Barry's landscaping business completely collapsed within a year. His trucks were sold off and he filed for bankruptcy. He eventually found work as a shift supervisor in a warehouse in a different county, making a fraction of his former income. Patricia was permanently blacklisted in the local dental community. No practice wanted the association. She eventually left healthcare entirely and found an administrative job where she worked mostly alone. Their personal lives imploded. Friends drifted away, not wanting to be associated with the viral racists. Their adult children were reportedly deeply embarrassed and distanced themselves. Meanwhile, Marcus tried to return to normalcy, though his definition of normal had shifted. The video's virality brought opportunities he never sought. He was invited to speak at national conferences about digital documentation and civil rights. A prominent legal advocacy group asked him to join their advisory board. Marcus handled it with the same quiet composure he showed in that parking lot. He gave a few select interviews, always steering the conversation away from personal vindication and toward systemic issues. He emphasized that he was fortunate to have a charged phone and a steady hand, knowing countless others face identical situations without that digital shield. He settled a civil lawsuit against the couple for an undisclosed sum, donating a significant portion to bail funds and legal defense organizations. The college student who had also recorded the incident used her unexpected platform to start a campus initiative encouraging bystanders to intervene and document harassment. The local police department used the incident footage in their academy training, showing cadets how easily situations can be misrepresented by callers and why on-scene video review is crucial. The Cumberland Creek Crossing Management installed high-resolution security cameras throughout their parking areas and updated their security protocols regarding harassment. 3 years after the incident, Marcus gave one final interview about the experience. When asked if he felt justice had been served, his answer was nuanced. He said that legal accountability had been achieved, yes, but that true justice was a much larger ongoing project. He shared the thought that haunted him most. The knowledge that his experience wasn't unique, that somewhere right at that moment another person was likely being harassed, threatened, or falsely reported to the authorities, but they might not have a camera or witnesses or responding officers willing to look at the objective evidence. So there you have it. A simple trip to buy groceries that turned into a national conversation about prejudice, digital evidence, and accountability. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already and let me know in the comments what you think about this case. Should the consequences have been harsher? Was justice truly served? Ultimately, this story isn't just a warning to those harboring prejudice. It is a call to action for everyone else. Marcus's calm reliance on technology proved that in modern society, the camera is the great equalizer. Truth is no longer just one person's word against another's, it is verifiable data. The most significant takeaway here is the vital importance of situational awareness and the courage to document injustice. Whether you are the victim or a bystander, like that college student, your willingness to hit record doesn't just capture a moment. It can quite literally save a life and ensure that accountability isn't just an abstract concept, but a concrete reality.